Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing a brief and quick preview of the Women's Euros final between Germany and England here on She Scores Bangers. I'm going to go over some key components and factors that I think are going to play a huge role in the result of this game. We're also going to briefly look at the recent performances and just the overall performances these two nations have been able to show out throughout the competition as a whole. Starting off with a little bit of history, this is England's second time being featured in the Women's Euros final. The last one was in 2009 against Germany, where they unfortunately lost 6-2. Meaning the Lionesses have actually never won a Euros before, so if they are able to win this one, it is most certainly going to be the first one. Germany, on the other hand, has been featured in 8 finals. This is going to be the 9th one. They have won all 8 of the previous ones, which is a 100% winning rate, which also makes them the most successful European nation in the Euros. An important question here to kick things off is, will England have another slow start? Throughout the group stages, the quarterfinals, and I think most importantly the semifinals, they have had a quiet start to the first half. Have that momentum, have that shift favoring the opposition and not so much England. And when I mean opening minutes, that averages for about 13 minutes. Looking at all the group stages and everything, if you put it all together to where they really didn't have much momentum, it does average out to 13 minutes. Against Sweden, that did last a little bit longer than 13 minutes. It almost was around a 20 to 25 minute in the beginning. But as we all know, they did leave that first half 1-0 up. So it will be really interesting to see if England has been able to kind of get rid of that slow start, as it is a final. Obviously, preparations are a little bit more intense. With that being said, I wouldn't say it has hurt them much that they have had a slow start, and here's why. They've only conceded 1 goal throughout this entire competition, and that goal did come in the second half. So technically, they haven't conceded a single goal in the first half, whether it was in the first 10 minutes, middle 10 minutes, or even the last 10 minutes. They just haven't conceded any in the first half, point blank. Germany, on the other hand, have scored 6 out of their 13 goals in the first half. The earliest one was in the 3rd minute against Spain, and so you can tell they kind of score half of their goals in the first half and half their goals in the second half. The earliest goal that England was able to score from an open play was against Norway by Lauren Hemp in the 15th minute. If England does indeed come out with a slow start and Germany notices that is a big weakness of them, Germany's efficiency and accuracy that they've been able to display, it's hard to say that England will not be in trouble. And that presents another question: who's going to be trailing behind first? England did trail behind against Spain, however, they did win that game. And it's hard to say that they didn't have all the momentum, they didn't have all the energy favor them when they were trailing. They did not necessarily look like a team who had losing as an option. They made it very clear that they wanted to win, and they were able to win. Germany, on the other hand, hasn't trailed behind yet. They've only drew with France, which obviously they were able to win that game after scoring a goal in the second half. And so the second half is going to be a very important 45 minutes for whoever is trailing behind. England has not had a bad second half throughout this entire competition. In fact, the second half is when they really shine. And you could say the same for Germany. However, there was one second half that I think some momentum was shifting towards their opposition, and that was against Austria. Now, it wasn't necessarily that Germany was in big trouble or Germany was really struggling against Austria in the second half, but they were very much enabling Austria to get close to the goal and have some very threatening attacks. Now, who scored in the second half? It was also Germany. However, you do have to look at these small vulnerabilities that I think are going to be very important, and I wouldn't be surprised if Serena is looking at that and is very aware of that energy drop that Germany did have against Austria. So how slow is England going to start, and will Germany be able to capitalize on that if that is the case? And 2, if anybody is to come out trailing in the first half, how will they able to react? Those are hard questions to answer, where all we're going to have to do is just wait and see. Germany plays very physical. A lot of the players are okay with engaging in physical battles. They clearly have the stamina for it. A lot of these players play in the Bundesliga, and so they are very okay with engaging in physical battles. In fact, I would say a lot of them invite those physical battles. So that's a given that Germany will play physical, because that's how they've played and that's how they will play. As we all know, the starting 11 for England has been exactly the same since the first game of the competition. And in a game with very small margins, is fatigue and overall the amount of minutes these players have been playing going to be a component. And if we see some of these English players kind of already tired or spending a little bit more time recovering, is that going to favor Germany as well? Now, this is not to say that we've seen these players slow down. I would say I'm very impressed with how these players have been able to play however many minutes they've been able to play and still have a consistent high level of performance. It will be very exciting to see how Pop is able to handle Bright and Lucy Bronze in the back. Millie Bright and Lucy Bronze, in my eyes, are the 2 biggest kind of physical tanks on the English team. They're both very strong. Lucy Bronze is also quite fast. Millie Bright is very good in the air, can give you a good shoulder to really knock you down. And so physicality wise, I don't think Pop is going to be having it as easy as she has had it previously. Millie Bright and Lucy Bronze do play right beside each other, so it will be interesting if Serena keeps it that way or kind of switches Leah Williamson and Millie Bright to balance out the physicality aspect in the defense line. When you talk physicality battles, you're obviously going to have to talk about fouls and set pieces. Both teams are very good on set pieces. I would say Germany is a little bit more better on free kicks, whereas England has been able to capitalize a little bit more on corners. In fact, I would argue both have been quite wasteful in a lot of these games when they get set pieces. I doubt this will be the case in a final. I'm pretty sure a lot of these players have been drilling a ton of free kicks, a ton of corners. I mean, who would not love to score from a dead ball? There's certainly going to be real threats where a lot of these defenders and even midfielders who are going to be willing to engage in physical battles have to be very careful in where they could be giving out the ball. This also leads into how Germany plays. Throughout this entire competition, Germany has been able to apply a very high press. They've been brilliant at it. I don't think any team has been able to execute as good of a high press as Germany has been able to do. But we can't forget that England is also able to put on a high press, and I think we saw a very disciplined performance against Norway. The majority of these goals and the majority of the attacks and the majority of everything, I mean, they had the ball like 90% of the time, but a lot of that ball that they were getting is they weren't allowing Norway to move that ball past their defense line. They were pressing them so high that they almost always got that possession back in Norway's half. And that clearly presented Norway probably too many troubles to solve. And so who can press better is again a question that we're gonna have to see during the game, because both teams can press very high and both teams are able to play with a very high press very successfully. I hate to say it again, but they're both so good defensively. Again, the defense has only let a goal in each. Both teams have been very, very good in getting bodies around the ball, bodies in the box, almost not giving that opposition a chance to shoot. England displayed that very, very well against Spain. Spain did have a ton of possession, and sure, Spain has had issues with converting that possession to goals, but regardless, you have to give it up for England, because if England was not presenting these issues to Spain and was not suffocating these very important players, it would have been a very completely different story. Also, speaking more about Spain, when they played against Germany was very tight in the back. In fact, they didn't allow Spain to score anything, whereas England did allow them to have that one goal. But also Germany was in trouble, I would say 3 times at least, against Austria, where they were also able to hit the crossbar. I mean, Austria came very, very close. So both defense lines, you could say, have had a situation or two where they've kind of crumbled under pressure or choked under that pressure. But I would say that's also outweighed by the amount of times that defense has showed up and has been able to secure a good safety zone for both the keeper and the defenders. Now, when you commit a lot of bodies into the box, you have to make sure that you're not susceptible to counterattacks. Both teams have been incredibly ruthless and very, very scary on counterattacks. It's all going to come down to that fast play and that decision making that's really going to edge it off. Now, considering this is a final, we actually have not seen a single shootout this entire competition, and so neither teams have been involved in one. The Lionesses have not had the best history with penalties, but also under Serena Wiegman, they are a completely different team, so I wouldn't really point that out. We haven't seen them have any penalty shootouts under Serena, so it's almost kind of worthless to look at how they've performed in penalties. For me personally, Germany does have Ann-Kathrin Berger on the bench, which she has not made a single appearance for this tournament, but she does have a very good reputation for penalties, and you could almost assume she's been drilling penalties behind scenes this entire time, just waiting up for that final. So penalties, it really is a toss-up. I think it's hard to say how England's going to perform because we haven't seen them do it with Serena, and Ann-Kathrin Berger is a goalkeeper that you will definitely want to trust saving your opposition's penalty. Speaking of penalties and pressure, England are definitely the ones that have a lot more pressure going into this game. They have the fan support, the home support, and to be honest, they've done very, very well under pressure, especially with Serena. I think that Spain game really did show us a different side of England that we have not been able to see before, which is the England under pressure, the England who's trailing behind. And when you come out victorious in a battle like that, it's hard to say that they're not going to do good under pressure, because they are certainly will be under pressure. It's a matter of how they're going to be able to show up to that big stage. Germany, on the other side, I don't think they're going to have a ton of pressure, because I wouldn't say they're the favorites to win this game based on the home crowd and the fan support. Wembley Stadium is a huge stadium. I'm sure the away section for Germany is going to be huge and packed. And so this is not to say they're not going to have fans supporting them. They most certainly will. But you're not the English side playing in England, in London, at Wembley. For me, this is absolutely a game of small margins. Both teams are very good technically. Both teams have a lot of the players on form. Both teams have been absolutely brilliant the last few games. Both teams have only conceded one and scored a ton of goals. It's really, really hard to say which team is better just based on their technical abilities, because I feel like they fare so evenly. It really will come down into physicality of the game, being physical for the entirety of the 90, 120 minutes, however long that game is going to go, staying focused. You almost cannot have a split second where you're not focused. You're going to have to be very efficient with how you move the ball, especially when you go forward. Very accurate when you are taking shots. On top of that, you need to have class communication with the 10 other players with you on the field, which takes a lot of discipline. Again, that is a very important component. Most importantly, I would say confidence in your own preparation, as well as self-belief in the team and the squad preparation as a whole. I don't think either teams are going in not thinking they're going to win. Both are obviously gunning for the win, and both obviously do believe they're going to win. They made it to the final. Why would they not think they're going to win? You could almost say that this is not going to be a battle of football. It's almost a battle of the psychology of it, how you stay focused, how you're able to conduct yourself if you are to trail behind or if you are to be winning. This game is also not just a final, it's also the race for the golden boot between Beth Mead and Alexandra Popp. Who is going to win that race? I also don't know, but what I do know is this game is one that you definitely want to watch. Sunday the 31st of July, 3 p.m. Eastern time. You have to tune in. I'm very excited to see how it's going to play out. I'm going to sit and enjoy it as a fan, and so should you. We're also going to come out with an analysis after the game finishes, so definitely stay tuned for that. To get notified when we upload that analysis, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on YouTube to stay updated and to continue enjoying the beautiful game. I will see you later.